Approval for the Pfizer coronavirus vaccine could come as early as Wednesday next week, but it's unclear when the doses will actually land on our shores. The government's issued a timeline for when it expects priority groups and then the public could get access to the vaccine. But the UK and the EU are experiencing delays in getting vaccines, with Italy threatening to sue pharmaceutical companies for failing to deliver on time. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern outlined how our vaccine rollout will work.
Our first focus will be vaccinating our border and managed isolation and quarantine workforce and their close contacts. Once the vaccine arrives in New Zealand, we expect to be able to complete vaccinating this group within 2 to 3 weeks. We will then, as vaccines arrive, move progressively through priority groups with a mass vaccination campaign likely to begin from mid-year.
Jacinda Ardern there. Now, I asked COVID Response Minister Chris Hipkins when the first doses will actually arrive.
We're expecting our first shipments of the Pfizer vaccine within the first quarter, so by the end of March. We're on a broadly similar timetable for delivery to Australia, so we're expecting to get our first shipments at about the same time, but it'll be some time between now and then. So it's sometime in the next 2 and a bit months, we're expecting to get our first shipment, and then we'll start vaccinating as soon as we get that first shipment.
How many would you expect in that first round?
We've got about 220,000 that we're expecting to get in the first quarter. It's possible that they'll come in dribs and drabs or, in smaller instalments, but at this point we just don't have confirmation of an exact delivery schedule from Pfizer yet.
But when you say in the first quarter, we're almost at the end of January. It's February next week, so you haven't got much time left for that first delivery. Why don't we have an exact date?
Look, we are working with Pfizer. Obviously, they are working very hard to meet unprecedented international demand for their product, for their vaccine. We do have an agreement from them that we'll get our shipment within the first quarter. As I've indicated, it's likely to be, it might be several smaller shipments, but we're getting ready so that as soon as it arrives, we'll be ready to start using it.
When you say you've got an agreement for delivery in the first quarter, does the contract explicitly state when delivery must take place?
Yeah, it specifies that they're expecting to get, in the advance.
Expecting or guaranteed must deliver in the first quarter?
Well, ultimately there are no guarantees about anything here, and if you look at those countries that have been making pronouncements about what they're going to do and when, they're having to adjust their timetables based on what the vaccine companies can actually deliver. But we are fully expecting, and the feedback we've had from Pfizer is that we are on track to get our first shipment of about 226,000 doses in the first quarter.
Are you really confident about that? Because you would have seen the reports from Europe, obviously, where Pfizer is struggling to keep up with orders. And in fact, some reports say they're 60% down in production and they've acknowledged a shortage. Are you sure we're going to get our share on time?
One of the reasons it's down in production, it was a short-term decrease in production in order to increase their overall output capability, which I understand has caused some issues for those countries that are waiting on supplies immediately. We've always been clear that we expect our first shipments sometime in the first quarter. I have been really clear about not raising people's expectations of earlier shipments, because I will only say that if I'm confident that we can deliver them.
Have you paid this company or these companies yet?
I don't know whether the checks have gone out, but we certainly have agreements with them which, specify the amounts we're going to pay.
Yeah, but has money changed hands?
Look, I don't know whether the money has been transferred. I don't know, but we've certainly signed up an agreement with them.
When you say that you're not going to give a timeline because you can't guarantee when it's going to get here, again, you're saying first quarter, that's what the contract requires. We've pretty much sucked up the whole first quarter.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, we're not even, there's three months and a quarter, and we're only getting to the end of the first month of it. What we are very, very clear about, though, is that, as soon as shipments start to arrive, and we may get relatively short notice of when shipments start to arrive, when they start to arrive, we will be in a position to use them.
Ashley Bloomfield said that you paid a deposit, so how much did they ask for?
Look, I don't have the information about exactly what payments are due when, but what I can say is, that we're expecting the first shipments in the first quarter.
Okay, and that obviously is Pfizer. What about the other contracts that you've signed?
We're expecting the first of those to arrive in the second quarter. So we've actually got 3 other vaccine candidates coming. We've got the AstraZeneca vaccine that we've purchased, the Janssen vaccine that we've purchased, and then also another vaccine that we've also bought our way into. And the name is just, for some reason, suddenly escaped me. But we're expecting the first. Novavax, sorry, that's the one. We're expecting the first shipments of all of those to arrive in the second quarter. But
Janssen hasn't completed trials yet, have they?
No, that's right. But, when we say, second quarter, that's the period between April and June. So, again, we've started the approvals process for Pfizer and for AstraZeneca, which are the ones that the Pfizer process is nearing the end in terms of its approval. They're the ones that we're expecting to receive first. The Janssen and Novavax processes will get underway shortly, and our goal, obviously, will be to have the approvals for those completed before we get the shipments.
I suppose my point there is that Janssen hasn't been through the whole process. I'm not sure whether Novavax has or not in terms of trials. I don't think that one has either. Are you still confident? Today you have said mass vaccination program by the second half of the year. Are you going to have the doses, the product to actually push that through?
Yeah, so if you look at what we're expected to get in the second and third quarters of the year, we are going to have very significant volumes of a number of different vaccines arriving in the country during that period of time.
Minister, I just want to come back to the deposit that you've paid for this vaccine. Who signed off on that? Who would have the numbers?
Ultimately, that would be decided by the Minister of Finance. Would ultimately authorise the release of information.
But did it not come past your desk?
It comes through a variety of different ministers, but the two key purchase ministers, the Minister for Science and Innovation and the Minister of Finance, they are the ones doing the purchasing of the vaccines.
But would you have been provided that information at some stage? Would you have seen it?
Oh, yes, I would have seen that at some point along that process, yeah.
So you able to give that figure to us?
I don't have that figure with me, no.
Will you undertake to get it for us?
I'm very happy to look that way, to go back and try and find that if it's public information.
Well, it's taxpayer money, so shouldn't it be? Given that you paid for this and we don't have it yet, you've made a deposit.
Look, some of these are commercial contracts. Some of them have provisions that mean that some information we can release and some information we can't. If it's information we can release, I'll certainly make sure that it's provided to you.
Can you give us a guarantee now that we're going to get these vaccinations in the time frame that you have specified and that the contract specifies?
Look, as I said, there's a lot of pressure on vaccines around the world and on vaccine manufacturers around the world. I know they're doing their best to be able to meet the timetables that they have committed to, but I cannot personally promise that because I don't run the vaccination companies. Well, that's COVID-19 Response Minister Chris Hipkins there.